Busy living sober, busy living sober. It's episode 414. I can't even believe it. Okay, it's cold and hot here in Florida. Does anybody ever have that happen? Oh my gosh. And January 31st, 2024, it's like cold and hot. One of those days it's like 70 degrees. So like 1 minute you're hot and 1 minute you're cold. And then especially, of course, I'm going through that change of life. So you never know. So how is everybody today? If you're here for the first time, welcome. And if you're a regular, good to see ya. Glad you're back. I'm so glad you're here. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can find me on every kind of source that you want to: Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, elizabethchance.com. If you do decide to go to elizabethchance.com, you can go there and you can sign up for my newsletter. That's the new thing that I've been doing in 2024, is sending out a newsletter every Friday. All different subjects I talk about. So go and sign up for my newsletter if you'd like. And then also, I just want to give a shout out that I do Thursday. And I've been doing it on Facebook under my personal account, which is Elizabeth Busy Chance. And I am going to start doing it on my Busy Living Sober Facebook page. So if you like to watch me on doing my show, my live little Thursday, which maybe lasts 5 minutes maximum, 6 minutes maybe. I make a drink and I talk and do funny things. But last week I talked about, how I wasn't sleeping. So tune in to hear what I'm going to do on Thursday tomorrow, if you want to. It's around 6:30 p.m. Eastern time is about when I do it. And again, follow me on Busy Living Sober on Facebook, and I'll be live on there. And then we'll share it on Instagram and all those other places, YouTube and all the rest of it. All right, all my business is out of the way, and now I get to talk about what we're going to talk about today, which is moving. And those of you that have been listening to me for a long time know that I've moved a bunch in the past 5 years. It's kind of funny because I think back to JF, my husband always reminds me, he's like, we were coming here for 10 weeks. That was 5+ years ago. And he's not lying, because we did. We came here and 5+ years ago because I really was tired of the North. I didn't grow up in the Northeast. So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I raised my kids outside of Philadelphia, but it was never, I couldn't wait till I could move. When my youngest graduated from high school, I was like, I cannot wait to go. I've always wanted to live in Florida. I love the sun. I love the beach. I love the ocean. I love all these things. And so we came down here and I moved first to Fort Lauderdale, stayed there for about 2 years, then left Fort Lauderdale, went up to Amelia Island, stayed there for I stayed there myself for probably a year and a half. And then I came to Delray, and that's where I've been. And that's where I'm going to stay. I finally found my spot, and I feel so grateful that I have my spot. But it doesn't come without its challenges, right? We all get to this place where we move. We either have to move because family, or we have to move for our jobs. We have to move because we finally want to move, or we've always wanted to go someplace. And we have all these big dreams of, once we get there, it's going to be like this, or it's going to be like that. And if it doesn't turn out like that, we're like, oh my gosh, I can't tell anybody I'm moving again, or oh, what are people going to think about me? Or, you know, you get to this place and you can't find the sense of community that you had before. And that's what I found until I got to Delray. I did not have a sense of community. It was not like I found my spot prior to coming here. And it's so nice where I am, but it does come with its challenges. And I will give you like one big example was, I had always gone to the same church. I raised my kids going to the St. David's Episcopal Church outside of Philadelphia in Wayne, PA. And I loved our Reverend Frank Allen. He's amazing. And I raised my kids there, and I was a member, and I was really involved, and I loved it. And it was like my place where I would go for my solace. And it was my place. Actually, they sometimes had meetings there that I would go to and attend, 12-step meetings. And my kids were in the choir, and, it was just a big part of my life. And I didn't really think about church. I don't know why when I was moving, but I really didn't. And I've moved and it's like that's the one thing that I feel like I haven't found again. And I know it's hard to replicate a human being and it's hard to replicate a feeling you get when you go into a building. And but I haven't found it. And that kind of is a bummer. I have to be totally honest. It's a total bummer when you go and you move somewhere and you like so many aspects of it, but you're like, but I miss this one thing. And I remember that when I was growing up in St. Louis and I moved to Philadelphia, and I was like, that was a total adjustment because I was raised in the Midwest and then moving to the Northeast was a big culture shock for me. I didn't really, where I'm from, where I was raised, it's like the middle of the country. It's pretty much apple pie. Everybody knows each other. Everybody loves baseball. Everybody, especially the St. Louis Cardinals. And, it's a very friendly town, St. Louis, and we all knew each other. And there was that sense that everybody was watching out for each other and this sense of like home, home. But my mom wanted to go to Philadelphia because that's where she was from, and it was kinda weird because I got there and I never felt like that, feeling that I had had growing up. I never had that sense of like, "Oh my gosh, it's apple pie, everybody knows each other, everybody goes to the same rec saw, drug saw." It was like rec saw, everybody went there. Everybody went to, the same grocery stores. It was just like the way it was, right? And, again, this is in the '80s. I mean, I was born in 1968 and I didn't move until, the late '80s. And I moved to Philadelphia. I didn't ever think that I would end up staying there, but I ended up meeting, I met my ex-husband there and raised my kids there. And my kids had a great education and that was all great. But I never had that sense like, this is it. This is home. I was always like, when am I going to get to go? When do I get to move? I can't wait to move. I can't wait to move. And, I didn't think that the move, when I went to Fort Lauderdale, that was really fun. It was my husband didn't love it as much as I did, but it wasn't it for us. And then COVID happened, and then the whole world kind of changed. And in this post COVID era, I moved to Amelia Island and I moved to an island like 13 miles long by 4 miles wide at the widest point. And it's, the demographic's a little bit older. The demographics, there's not a lot of retail stores there. So there's no major big shopping there, and for those that really know me, know that I love to shop. And that wasn't really like a great thing for there. And I'd have to, it'd be an hour to get to like a Whole Foods. And it was like, this is not for me. I'm more of a city girl and not city, but suburbs girl. And, now I'm putting back on my sweater if you're watching this. If you're not, if you're just listening, now I'm cold again. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but 1 minute you're hot and 1 minute you're cold. You're like, okay. But and then I went up there and I realized that wasn't it. And my husband and I came to Delray for a weekend. We got an Airbnb and we walked around and he's like, "Do you want to get an apartment here?" And I'm like, "I kind of do." And he's like, "Let's do it." And we got an apartment here. And then, after 6 months, I was like, this is it. And people say to me, why is it it? And I'm like, because there's this sense of community. Like everybody goes to the same dry cleaner. I know the woman who owns like one of the, I know both women who own like big dress stores here. And that's the sense of community. I know all my neighbors are nice. And it's just been a great place in that regard. But that whole, like what it was like, the church thing, that hasn't come back yet. It just hasn't. I haven't found the church thing yet, and I miss that, and I wanna find it, but I don't know where I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna keep trying. But do you know what that sense is of, like, missing this certain feeling that you had when you went into a certain building and saw people, and it was that sense of community, so I'm looking for that, and I think another thing for me is, like, the 12 steps, like, if you get sober in a 12-step meeting and you move and you're like, "Wait a minute, I had this feeling when I went to this meeting, this is where I got sober, this is where I had my journey," and then you move and you try to replicate that and it's hard, right? Like where I live right now, there's a lot of clubhouse meetings, meaning like they have a building that's designated for meetings and it's all day. They have meetings all the time, which is amazing. It just hasn't, I haven't found it yet. Again, it's like it's there. I don't know. Since COVID, things have changed. Life is always changing and moving is just like, I don't know, it's like being in high school again. You go and you try to make friends. And if you don't belong to a church and you don't belong to a 12-step group, and you don't, where do you meet people? Where do you meet people? Where do you feel, where do you put yourself out there? I have decided, for those of you that don't know, I'm an art, I started painting, um, I want to say like over 10 years ago, I started painting. Maybe 10 years ago, I started painting. And I love it. It's my like one outlet. And I am gonna go join an artist guild group. And I found it on Meetup. And I'm gonna go tomorrow night at 8:30. And that'll be fun. That's different, right? That's not something I have ever really done as a meetup. And I know that it's a resource out there, but I've never really gone and tried it out. And I thought, what's the worst thing that happens? I don't enjoy myself. I'm sure I'll meet somebody that's nice. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. And I think that we all get to this place that we're like, we've made a change in our lives. Well, let's just say you even move from one house to another house. That comes with changes. I mean, maybe you had a place that you like to sit in your one house that was your quiet spot, or your place that you like to needlepoint, or if you like to read there, or you like to nap there, or you just like to look out the window there, and you move. And as great as this new place is, you don't find that same feeling there. And you're like, should I move or should I not move? And I think that it's kind of like life. Like everything is ever evolving, everything is always changing, everything is always moving. And how do you get still and realize that it's okay that you don't have that church right now, or you don't have that community that you used to have? And maybe you won't ever recreate that same feeling that you had previously, but you'll find something different. And I'm not going to say it's going to be better or it's going to be worse. It's just going to be different. That's a huge key for me, is that whole ability not to be able to label something as good or bad, right or wrong. It just is. It just is. You know, taking the time to be able to say, it is this feeling I'm having. I got this, mostly this ability to do this is through meditation, has been my ability to not react and just sit with these things. It's not easy. It's not really hard. The feelings are difficult because who wants to feel yucky? Who wants to feel that somebody doesn't like them? Who wants to feel like somebody that you're not loved by everyone? This estrangement that I've been going through with my son is something that has been so difficult. And I see a lot of men therapists talking about it. There's one woman I found on Instagram, not on Instagram, on YouTube. There was one woman that I saw on there that I was like, oh, should I go listen to her? And she spoke about it from a therapist's point of view, which is great. But I'm like going to speak about it from a mom point of view of going through it personally and what it feels like, and knowing I'm not alone. I was actually on a podcast just recently I was on Addiction Unlimited with Angela Pugh, and Angela's a coach. And I said, have you ever coached anybody that's dealing with estrangement? And she said, yes, I have. And I was like, how is that? And she's like, it's so hard. And from the mother's point of view of where I'm sitting, I feel like I was, I did the best I could do, right? I mean, that's all I can tell you. I did the best I could do. Could I have done anything better in the moments? I don't think so. I mean, I quit drinking when my oldest son was 10. I've been continuously sober since then. Um, and so he's now 27. I'll have 18 years in August. He'll be 28 in July. And I had no idea that this estrangement was going to happen. It was a big change for one, when they all left. That huge change that happened when they went off to college, especially my youngest one, that like really hit me hard. And at that point, we had moved to Florida. So I had the change of moving to Florida, and then all three of my kids going off to college and being like, oh my gosh, now what? Now what is my life going to look like? Who am I? What's my identity? And, that took about, it's been 5 years, 5.5 years now since. It'll be 6 years since my youngest graduated from high school this coming May, June. And, when he left, that was really hard. And then my oldest decided that he was going to go work on these campaigns and he was going to go out to Nebraska. And I drove with him out to Nebraska and he met a young woman and he fell head over heels right from the beginning. And I didn't know what I know now. I'd had a relationship with him that maybe, I don't know if it was healthy or unhealthy. I guess now, I don't know. I don't want to label it again as good or bad. It just was. We had a very close relationship and shared a lot of stuff that maybe moms and sons don't share if there's a husband around. But because he was my oldest son, I talked to him about a lot of stuff. And then I met this woman, and soon after her meeting me, it became, you know, I was he just kind of, it was like he got a life and he was like, you go find your own life, mom. You go do your own you. And I was like, okay. And then the relationship slowly, I won't say it was not that, it was pretty fast actually, that he was like done talking to me. Like I was no longer a part of his life. It was like, you're gone, goodbye. Didn't take my phone calls, didn't respond to me on anything. Um, Took me off of, our whole family had always had to find my friends. He removed himself from that. And then he did call me when he got engaged. And then after that, there was conversations that went back and forth that weren't very nice via text, and I'm not a texter. I don't like communicating that way. I would much rather talk to somebody in person or at least on the phone, maybe even FaceTime and have a conversation, but it was via text because he didn't pick up the phone and mean things were said by both parties. And I have tried and tried and tried to reach out, apologize. I don't even know what I mean, maybe I apologize because I didn't really from the beginning. I'm going to admit was not like psyched about the person because I didn't know her and I felt like barriers were being put up and I'm going to admit it. And because of my feelings of feeling the way I felt, which we're not allowed to have feelings as mothers anymore, you know, I was pushed out and he got married on New Year's Eve. I was not invited. My other kids were invited. My ex-husband, who was not there for pretty much any of their childhood. I mean, he was there, but he didn't get sober until my son was a junior in high school. And it was really hard. I was the single mom and all these things piled up in where I am in my emotions and feeling like, oh my gosh, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, I've done that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe he's done this to me. I was the only one that went to every wrestling match. I mean, the entire wrestling team his senior year of high school had t-shirts that said, come on, Kent, because that's all I did was cheer for him. And now I've been cast away like a piece of dirt. It's like he's died in some ways. Like I'm not even allowed to talk to him. He won't even communicate. I even went so far as reaching out to his wife saying, is there a time we could talk? Can we please sit down? I'll come to where you live, or you can come here. You don't even, we'll meet for coffee. I will just go meet you for coffee and fly away. And no response, no response. And that is so hard to deal with as a mom. I think as any parent, to be honest with you, I think it would be hard for a dad too. I think it would be hard. I can tell you it's been hard for my husband, who's been a stepdad and been in his life for 11 years, to just have that door slammed in your face. Like literally they've gone off and they've died or something. And that change is so emotional. It's so, oh my God, it just hurts at your heart. And you look at your friends and you're like, oh my gosh, their life looks like it's perfect. I mean, their kids are all nice. Their kids all call their parents. Their kids all do this. Their kids all do that. And you don't get that same, respect or anything. And you're like, what did I really do wrong? I don't know. I got sober. I tried my best every day. And I guess by their standards, it wasn't good enough. And which warrants you being extricated from my life completely. You are no longer part of my life. I've extricated you. You are like dead to me. And it feels so like I've lost something. And I've lost sleep over it for so many days and so many nights. Every night I think about him, every night, every night. It doesn't go by that I don't think about my son. And I understand you're supposed to grow up and you're supposed to get your own life and you're supposed to get your own wife and you're supposed to get your own kids and you're supposed to get all these things. But at the same time, where is the like sense of like just the respect that you've raised these kids, right? Where does that I mean, I don't expect anybody to put out a red a red rug and give you a tiara or any of those things, but just at least to like check in once a week or something and say, "Hey, what's up? This is what I'm doing in my life." And that doesn't happen. And you're like, what did I do to deserve this? And I was actually on someone's podcast yesterday and we were talking about this and how we raise kids and then they get their own lives. And, back in the day, you would go and you'd visit your grandparents and you would go and you'd hang out with your family and it didn't matter where it was. And I remember growing up, my grandparents always came over for dinner and we'd have these dinners and my mom would make a nice dinner and set the table and do all these things. And then I remember we would go, one grandmother lives in Philadelphia and we're in St. Louis and we would go and we'd hang out with my grandmother in the summer and we'd go to her beach house and we'd all go and spend the summer and hang out and see cousins that we didn't see the rest of the year. And we had that family time. And then I don't know. I don't know what happened that has put this separation of like generations, siblings. We all have our own set of eyes that we see things with, right? We all have opinions. We all have feelings like when we grow up in a family, one person is going to remember it this way and another person is going to remember it that way. But does anybody have to be right or wrong? Or can it be like, oh yeah, you saw it like that? That's cool. Like when do we get to that place of just neutrality and knowing we just love each other because we grew up together? We might not like each other and we might not pick them as friends, but we love them because they're our relatives. And we hurt those people first rather than hurting strangers. It's like so crazy to me. And it's been baffling my whole life. And I'll just be honest in that I grew up with my grandmother never spoke to her siblings. My mom didn't speak to her siblings at times. I don't now speak to my siblings. And now my son doesn't speak to me. And all of this, like, I've heard Mel Robbins even say this that, like, when somebody ghosts you or stops talking to you entirely, like, that's the most painful thing of all is when somebody just turns you off and acts like you don't even exist. That's so painful for the person that's being shut out. Like, just because we don't agree, we have to close the door entirely. We have to put up a wall that says, no, I'm not having you in my life anymore. I'm not talking to you anymore. It hurts. It's been so painful, and I never wanted to have this happen to my own family, my kids. I never wanted it to happen. I wanted to do anything in my power to not have it happen, and it happened. And I want to fix it. I want to fix it. I want to get there and I want to fix it. I want to be like, come on, let's all come together. Let's sit down, have a kumbaya. Let's say whatever we think we said to each other and let's move on. Let's like realize that we're going to agree to disagree, that we are going to realize like, okay, you see it that way, you see it that way, but let's just come together. But no, it's a divide. And it's a divide that you can't conquer. There's no like if you look at a puzzle, like how am I going to get my way out of this puzzle? And you can't get out of a puzzle if the other people won't come. You're just by yourself twiddling your thumbs and your brain just goes to all these things. So I go to hope. I go to hope. I go to God. I go to trust, to knowing that hopefully this too shall pass. It might not pass in my time frame. It might not pass. I might not ever have a relationship with my son again. I had one for about, I guess, 25 years, 26 years. And no, maybe 25 was when it changed. Yeah, he's 27 now. I don't think maybe 25. Yeah, I sent him a present for his 26th birthday. He didn't even say anything. Yeah, I haven't, it's 25 years, I guess I had with him, maybe not even total. Maybe it was 24. I don't even know. But I know that it's been a while. I'm not good at dates, but it's been years now. And, we can't, none of us can go backwards. There's no time machine that we can go back and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to redo this or I'm going to redo that. I'm not going to have said this. I'm not going to have said that. We can't go back and change that. All we can do is learn from our mistakes. And it's interesting because I'm learning so much from this. I've learned so much from this, as painful as it's been. So it hasn't been in vain because I have learned so much. And unfortunately, he's my oldest. So my other two are going to benefit from it more than he is. And that's just how life is. It was like when he was growing up, your oldest, you're like, oh my gosh, are they doing this? Are they doing that? You become like a helicopter parent. And by the third one, you're like, does he have diapers on? That's all I need. And, but I don't drink. I don't drink over this. I don't drink because it's not going to make it better by any stretch of imagination. I can't drink because I still have two other kids. I can't go and be like, I just decided to have a cocktail. I'd have 47, I'm sure. And I'd be woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. And I wouldn't have the ability to use the tools that are my toolbox, which is the meditation in the morning. And literally I'm trying to do it for 8 weeks. I think I'm a weekend, maybe two. Um, of doing 13 minutes of just quiet meditation in the morning before I do anything. And that has really given me a new perspective and been able to go, okay, these are your thoughts, Elizabeth. I'm always going to miss my son. I'm always going to miss my son. But it's his choice if he wants to have a relationship with me or not. I can't force him. So many times I've wanted to buy a plane ticket and just show up on his doorstep or show up at his work. My other son said, "We'll have you arrested." He'd probably have me arrested, so I'm not going to do that. Um, I don't need the drama. So I just see it and I pray and I pray and I pray because I can't change anything if I can't communicate with them. I can't. And you probably can't either. They don't give you the opportunity to even speak your mind or talk and have the respect to hear you. You really have no choice. So life is like a journey. So change is always happening, moving's always happening. Kids talking to us, not talking to us. This is all new things in our lives and dealing with it. You spend so much time making sure these kids are bathed, fed, clothed, go to the right school, go to school, do their homework, not do their homework. Has something to do in the summers. Make sure have their cleats. It's for their sports or whatever it is. We spend, a long time making sure they're okay. And then they grow up and they say, see ya, sayonara, I don't want anything to do with you. It's, I don't know. Is it these times? What do you think? Is it because we're living in 2024? Or is it because we're living in these times where life has become, the internet and social media far surpasses our feelings as human beings towards people we love? What is it? I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It's not easy by any stretch of imagination. But again, I don't drink for any and all. I won't drink for this because it won't make it better. It'll still be the same. If I drink, I'll just be drunk, maybe calling him, going, oh my gosh. And I would have no restraint of tongue and pen. And it's so hurtful. I miss him so much. I miss him so much. There's so many things that like I want to call him and be like, "Did you see this? Did you see that?" Because we were really good friends before. And but all I can do is just pray that things change and that maybe one day they'll be willing to sit and have a conversation with me. That's what my dream is for life. Um, I want to throw in one last thing. It's political, but I don't care. What do you guys think about the fact that Leah Thomas is a man? He might now want to be a woman, but he's built like a man. He's built like his arms are huge. He's got a huge torso. He's got long limbs. And he wants to compete against the girls in the Olympics. Really? Like, did you not win with the guys? So you had to come against the girls? I mean, our bodies are different. It's true. Our bodies are different. Women are built differently than men. I have had boys and girls, children, and they're built totally differently. What do you think about that? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. If you like today's podcast, reach out to me. If you didn't like today's podcast, reach out to me. You can reach me at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. No question's a dumb question. I always respond right away. I don't want you to ever think you're alone. You always have to pick up the phone. Everything on this podcast is my opinion and my opinion only. It's not the opinion of anyone else's. It's my opinion. These are all my opinions. That's it. If you like it, go to my news. You can sign up for my newsletter at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. Or just go to elizabethchance.com and it'll prompt you. Do you want to sign up for the newsletter? Sign up for it there. Subscribe to my channels. If you like what you hear, please give me a rating on either Spotify, iTunes. iTunes is great. If you go into iTunes and give me whatever score you want to give me. And realize you're not alone. That's a big thing I want you to know today. I mean, I had somebody on the podcast just recently who said that 60% of Americans are lonely. I don't want you to ever feel alone. Don't ever feel alone. Try these meetup things. I'm going to let you know next week how it goes. I'm going to try meetup. I'm going to go tomorrow night and see what it's like. I'm going to go show up and go be my best me. And hopefully it'll be fun and it's something different. So think about doing that yourself and think about, you know, life is a gift. It's a journey. Some days are harder than others, and that's just the facts. And what tools do you have in your toolbox that work for you? Let me know. Maybe we can talk about it, or I can talk about it, bring it up. I can talk more about meditation if you want me to. And realize if you move, yeah, things are going to change. Things are going to change for sure. You're not going to have the same, you're not going to walk into that same church you've been going to for how many years and see the same people that everybody knows who you are. You're not, and maybe that's a good thing or bad thing, and you're not going to find that same exact minister where you go because it just doesn't happen. God only makes one of us. I think a lot of people are happy about that. But, you know, it's, life is, I learned one thing when I got sober, and that's the only thing I don't do is I don't pick up a drink no matter what. Even if my butt's falling off, I think somebody said something to the extent of that. Somebody said, like, no matter what, under any and all circumstances, you never drink. It won't make anything better. So finding other tools that will work for you in your toolbox is what's important, and taking care of you. It's like you're on a plane, put the oxygen mask on you first, and then you can take care of everybody else. And what is that for you? Is that going to the gym? Is that going for a walk? Is that going to church in the morning, wherever you live? What is it? Going to synagogue? Going to mosque? What is it? Prayer that you do at your house? Whatever your morning ritual is? Whatever it is, let me know. I want to hear about it. Again, reach out to me at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. Go watch me on Thursday, tomorrow, 6:30 p.m., Busy Living Sober on Facebook. I'm going to do something funny, I'm sure. And JF's my cameraman. He's getting better and better at doing this job. He loves it. And it's teamwork. And life is about the journey. It's not about the destination. So keep getting busy, living sober. Take care, everybody. And I will talk to you on Monday with a guest. And until then, take care. Keep keep getting busy, living summer. Bye.